Today is episode 26 with Dr. B and the 11th Ask Dr. B show.
Welcome to the Harness Your ADHD Power podcast. If you're looking for a fresh perspective and actionable steps on hot topics from focus to follow through to self-management and more, you are in the right place. Welcome your host, innovative educator, coach, and psychotherapist, Dr. B.
Hey, dears. I am so glad that you could join me again today for my podcast show. I've changed things up a bit again so you don't get in a rut and you don't stop paying attention in the moment because you anticipate what's coming next. A little newness keeps things fresh and it keeps it lively. Plus, this is good training for you in case you're one to jump to conclusions or assumptions and then you miss something important. I wouldn't want that to happen to you. Another trait is being very curious. In other words, having lots and lots of questions. That's definitely me. Probably you too. However, you might be a bit shy, or not, about making your questions known, especially if asking lots of questions was a problem for others when you were growing up. In fact, they might have even said to you, "You never stop. You're always asking questions. Aren't you ever satisfied?" They might have said these things to you like it was you that had the problem, instead of it being a problem that they had with your voracious appetite to know and learn and make sense of things. Nothing wrong with that appetite. And just a quick reminder that today's success, or lack of it, started last night. That's right. If you got a good night's sleep, felt rested when you woke up this morning, and you were excited about your day, then you set yourself up for a successful day. And if you let yourself stay up late again because you felt like it, and you didn't gently and lovingly escort yourself to bed, then you've got some work to do around that behavior and that way of thinking. With our fast-paced brains, we definitely need our sleep. So what about your questions? Did you wake up with any this morning? And if so, and you're looking for answers, consider sending your questions over to me so that I can answer them or find answers for you. I'd love to do that. Or perhaps your questions just arise in the moment when you think about the tasks that you have to complete and you feel overwhelmed before you even get to them because you have questions about what to do, when to do it, how to do it, or even if you should do it. Is that you? If so, then keep track of your questions as best you can and send them over to me so that I can help you to get the answers and get unstuck. And you're welcome to ask more than one question on more than one occasion. If you've got lots of questions, then ask me lots of questions. Seriously, you will be doing me a big favor by sending me your questions, all of them. Seriously. And in case you're wondering what kind of questions you can ask me, here's some examples of what others have asked me over the years. How can I manage my hyperfocus better? What can I do to be on time instead of 10 minutes late to everything? Does life ever get any easier living with adult ADHD? Your questions matter to me, all of them. How are you going to do what you want to do if your mind is filled with questions and roadblocks instead of excitement and motivation? Where are you supposed to turn in times like that? Well, one place you can turn is to me, which is one reason I created the Ask Dr. B format. It's not just that we're a curious bunch, although we are, of course. You may be also sitting on huge gaps in your knowledge base, and you can't move forward on what you want to achieve. In fact, you may not even know what questions to ask to get the information that you need. Wouldn't it be wonderful if someone would ask you, "What are you trying to do?" And you could tell him or her. And then they would ask you, "Do you know how to do A, B, C, D, and so on?" And you could tell them what you knew and what you didn't know. And because they know the sequence and the process and all of that, they could answer your questions and they could guide you through the sequences of the tasks that you want to get done. I would like to be that person for you. And if you're the kind of person who needs to have all the details up front before you step into the ring and you've got huge gaps in the process or the sequence of events, how exactly are you supposed to proceed? Seriously, this has nothing to do with how smart you are, everything to do with your learning style. Even with ADHD, some of us are quite literal, and we need step-by-step versions of the story to engage. Others of us are more inferential. We just kind of jump in and fly by the seat of our pants, and we fill in the details and the information as we go along. Either way, you need what you need, and that's just how it is, period. And if you're anything like me and you don't get your answers, the answers that you need, you might just keep spinning or ruminating like I do until I get the answers that I need. The entire situation can turn into one big, overwhelming experience. Perhaps that's happened to you too. Perhaps you can relate. My very curious mind is always wondering what the number one biggest struggle or frustration is for you right now, so that I can help you with it. I wake up every day wondering that, so that I can direct my energy to the solutions that you need. I really want to know. I do. And I'd love to know how ADHD is the same or different in all parts of the world, which is one of the reasons I created the Harness Your ADHD Power community on Facebook. And a special thank you to those of you who have generously shared your thoughts with me and told me how it is that you are truly suffering. Lost productivity, lost income, lost respect by family, lost respect among peers and clients, feeling of hopelessness, struggle, and inadequacy, even feeling like you can't do school and aren't smart because your teachers or professors aren't teaching you the way that you learn best. That's a lot of suffering. The thought of millions of adults with ADHD suffering every day with these kind of challenges is a painful thought to me, especially when I have answers and solutions that could potentially ease your pain. I made it even easier to get your questions over to me. Just head over to my website and you'll see Ask Dr. B in the main menu now. Just click there and ask away. I'll be notified immediately and get to work on them for the next Thursday's show. And in the event that your question is outside the scope of my license or practice or my knowledge base, I'll find a guest who can answer your question and have them do so on one of the special guest shows. Either way, you'll get your answers to the best of my ability to provide them. If you're a new listener, welcome. I'm honored that you're here. If you're a subscriber or a regular listener, thank you so much for your loyalty and for trusting me to share meaningful content with you in each and every episode. And whether this is your first or your 26th time of listening to my show, you're going to hear me say time and time again that you are not what you do or don't do, that you are more than that we are not defective or less than as people, as human beings. We're just wired differently. And the difference is actually pretty cool. Once you have answers to your questions, once you know what you need to do and how to do it, and you have the best tools for you to get it done with the least amount of stress. It's my hope that you're going to get some of what you need here. And remember, I'm a work in progress just like you. I am. Sometimes I'm a tortoise, sometimes I'm a hare. It depends a lot on a lot of different factors. Sometimes I'm even a little scattered when I have so many amazing ideas or thoughts that are coming in all at once. And I have to slow things down, take a breath, and regroup myself, letting all of those ideas know that I will pay attention to them, but one at a time, because I just can't take them in all at once, and I get flooded if I do, and I get overwhelmed. Perhaps you can relate to that. Point being, I've learned a lot about myself over the years because I've been willing to be a student of my own life, to really study me, to step into the situations that present themselves and learn how to navigate whatever it is that I find. This has meant learning how to quiet my challenges, how to take a breath. And I'll tell you, there's been a lot of times I've needed to do that and to make the most of my gifts, many more gifts than I ever knew were possible for me. once I got the information that I needed. And I trust that you will too once you get what you need. I absolutely love my world map with all the little flags marking all the countries and the states where you all are listening. It is so cool, and it keeps growing day after day, week after week. I love looking. I want to acknowledge and I want to welcome new listeners in Brazil, Malaysia, the Philippines, Hungary, Hong Kong, South Africa, Denmark, Romania, Kenya, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Belgium, Japan, Sweden, Germany, Netherlands, Ireland, United Kingdom, Canada, and just about every state in the U.S. It is so exciting to know that we are not alone at all. I am not much of a world traveler, never been. However, it's exciting to know that my voice is traveling to all of you, no matter where you are on this planet of ours, that no matter where you're located, you're listening and relating to the challenges and the stories and the solutions. I want to thank you all for listening, and I trust that you'll benefit from at least one episode of this podcast show, hopefully more, but at least one. Knowing you're there listening and reading your reviews and your emails makes me want to give more of myself to meet your needs via this podcast show, live videos that I do, my innovative programs, a Facebook community page now, and in many other ways. You are a blessing to me, and your presence in my life is beyond anything that I had ever imagined. Newsflash! I created a special group for us to be able to relate on Facebook as a community. The group is called the Harness Your ADHD Power Community. After seeing that there's all of you listening from so many different parts of the world, I thought it would be a really wonderful thing for us to be able to come together from our many diverse spaces and freely communicate and discuss focus and follow through and self-management and other relevant topics. I even created a quick little poll so that you could let me know what episodes you've been listening to, which ones you've enjoyed the most, and things like that. Plus, there's a few house rules for the highest good of the group space. Things like being mindful of your posts and your comments, don't spam, including self-promotion, to celebrate your wins, and to get involved. Let's support each other on this journey of becoming and living as our best self, of moving from stuck to unstoppable. I'd love to get to know you all. I really would. Come join the group. Come join the community. Again, it's the Harness Your ADHD Power Community on Facebook. Before I get to today's questions and answers, I have a question for you. And you've heard it before if you're a regular listener. You have, of course. It's about your state of mind and your wins. I can't emphasize this enough, and I'm going to continue to ask you about your wins every time. And I'm going to encourage you to acknowledge and celebrate them every single day. I found this quote by Zig Ziglar that fits what I'm saying. You were born to win, but to be a winner, you must plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. To me, Zig is talking about your birthright to win. And in order to claim that birthright, you have to plan, prepare, and expect to win. All the behaviors and attitudes that those with focus and follow through and self-management challenges typically have difficulty with. However, you can fill in those information and skill gaps. It's a matter of needing to learn a few things. One of the reasons that I encourage you to really look for your wins and then acknowledge and celebrate all of them is because they're going to lift your spirits, create a can-do mindset, and lead you to your greater successes. So back to wins. I talk a lot about wins. Why? Because cultivating and having a wins mindset can transform how you experience your life. And how you experience your life and the meaning that you give to your life events contributes to the quality of your life. So if you've been taking time to look for your wins, really look for them. Acknowledge them, celebrate them, share them with others who appreciate what a big deal they are for you and celebrate with you. And are you doing that every day? I sure hope so, because there is truly magic in all of this. And what do I mean by wins? I mean that they are those little things that happen every single day that are good things, positive things in the bigger picture of your life, and yet they go unnoticed, unacknowledged, and uncelebrated by you. It takes shifting your mindset, and it's totally worth it. Please, don't be the person who continues to tell yourself that it's pointless to reward yourself for things that you're supposed to do. That couldn't be further from the truth. It's those very things that deserve to be celebrated, so they become easier for you to do them consistently and more enjoyably each and every time. So what's it going to be for you today? If you begin the day more slowly instead of with an adrenaline rush, it's a win. If you took the higher road and you didn't need to prove that you were right, it's a win. Perhaps you donated some of your time to be of service in your community. That's a win. Maybe you took a few minutes to look in the mirror this morning and smiled at yourself. That's a win. You get the point. Celebrate all of them. And none of this half-hearted celebrating. Ugh. Mean it. Exaggerate your emotions. Yes. Wow. Awesome. Yes. And certainly celebrate the big wins too. It's just that they happen so much less often. So celebrating daily wins makes sense because it makes a difference faster in your life because of the frequency. Shifting gears now. Today's episode is all about answering the questions that you have about issues or challenges that you experience as an adult living with ADHD and offering you hope, real hope. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's get to it. Thanks to you, my listeners, for today's questions on these 3 topics. Making amends to those you think that you've harmed in some way. Not compromising your well-being to keep up with a heavy workload. And completing important tasks at work.
This podcast is sponsored by Pure Potential with Dr. B. You can head over to drbarbaracohen.com and find the podcast show notes, great free content from Dr. B, plus programs and services. That's drbarbaracohen.com.
Now back to being an adult with ADHD in today's world. You know, there's a lot of different reasons why you have the questions that you do. It's possible that you have lots of misinformation, or you're missing steps or strategies or a philosophy or an understanding of yourself well enough to really slow down and think something through rather than rush yourself and make mistakes and come to wrong conclusions. Everyone's reasons are different, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here so that I can answer what I can for you. I'm going to share each topic with you, share a little about the topic, offer my point of view about the topic, which includes an action step to take. Yep, there's an action step for each topic because just hearing an answer, it isn't enough. You need to take action or nothing changes. That's just how it is. So don't let yourself off the hook here. You do have the ability to respond to your needs. And I hope that at least one of these topics is going to resonate with you and be of benefit. So let's keep going. Thank you to an anonymous listener in the USA for the first topic of making amends to those that you think that you've harmed in some way. They asked, how would you approach wanting to make amends for relationships and situations that have been seriously damaged or even terminated by behavior that you only recently learned stems from an expression of symptoms related to undiagnosed ADHD, avoidant behavior, lack of follow-through, things like that? And is there a way to do this without mentioning that you have this disorder and accompanying challenges, and that it contributed to what went wrong? Look forward to hearing to what you have to say about this, and hope this will be helpful for others, just as helpful as all of your Ask Dr. B episodes have been. Many thanks in advance. Response to my anonymous listener in the USA. Thank you so much for your questions and for what you shared with me. I decided that I could weave them all together and talk about making amends in the way that I came to understand making amends throughout my years of recovery. First, I'd like to comment on the concern that I hear that you have about whether or not you need to reveal information about yourself in order to make your amends. To me, this concern stems in part from behavioral traits of codependency, where you're used to feeling the need to explain or justify what you say and give information because you feel that you have to. My short answer here is that you don't owe an explanation or a justification to make amends. I'll continue on. The purpose of making amends, or living amends, as I've learned it, is to cover certain very specific points in your amends. What I've learned they is what you did, such as you broke commitments to get together very last minute on many different occasions, and you were to be the driver to the event. Just an example. Next, the effect that had on the person, such as they lost out on attending things because they weren't prepared to go solo since they didn't have any advance notice. Next, the emotional impact on the person, such as they felt a breach of trust between the two of you as a result of your many broken commitments, and that weakened the relationship between you. Next, that you apologize specifically for breaking trust with them, weakening the relationship bond between the two of you and causing them distress. Next, the living amends part, which is what you intend to do differently moving forward, might be something like you will not make a commitment in the future that you don't know you can keep. And if you make a commitment and an emergency situation occurs where you need to cancel, you will let them know immediately and hopefully at least 24 hours in advance so they can have ample time to make other arrangements and take care of their needs. What I've just shared is the general guidelines that I learned about making amends, or rather, living amends. I call it living amends because if you're going to continue to be in relationship with people, things are going to happen. And when you make living amends, it's about cleaning up what happened as soon as possible and laying out a new behavior or protections that you're going to put in place to protect your relationship with that person moving forward. It tells them what you're going to do differently and what they can expect if you don't. Making amends is for you, and to make things right for you within you. You're the only person that you have any control over. The other person has the right to accept your amends or not. It's their choice. If they agree to listen, great. If they agree to accept what you say and accept your amends, great. And if they don't, that's their right. You did what you could, and you have to accept their decision to not want your amends and move on. That's also part of this process. That said, it's very important that you don't make amends until you know that you are really ready to make them and to hold yourself accountable to the new behaviors that you commit to. You know, trust is a very fragile thing. It takes a lot to build or create it, and it can be broken or fragmented in a second, and sometimes never able to be repaired. You want to be very mindful and very careful not to break trust again. For now, I hope that my input is giving you some things to consider about making your amends and clearing things up within yourself, which is truly the purpose of making amends, to let go of what's unresolved within you, since you have no control over how the other people will respond to your amends. You only have control over what you say and what you do to attempt to clear up things. Transitioning to our next topic. Thank you to the second anonymous listener in the USA for the second topic of not compromising your well-being to keep up with a heavy workload. They shared and asked, "Dear Dr. B, thanks so much for your podcast. You're the first person to explain things to me in a way that is actually changing the way that I do things. I am a physician in a work-heavy specialty. I am much slower at getting through my work than my peers. Your podcasts are definitely giving me ideas about how I am making certain tasks much more involved than they need to be. However, as a result of my slowness, I'm currently so overloaded in addition to being behind that I see no other way to get through my day other than to skip meals and skip sleep, not including working late and not being there for my kids. I know that this is not sustainable, but if I don't complete my work for the day, then I'll just be more behind tomorrow. What is your advice for when you are decompensated like me and genuinely don't have time to accomplish what needs to be accomplished? I am not going to get faster overnight. How do I sustain life while I'm trying to implement changes? Is there any other option other than quitting being a doctor? I already feel like a failure for having to live such an extreme life just to do my job. I think quitting will make me feel really hopeless about my ability to hold a job in general. I hope to hear from you. Thanks. Response to my anonymous listener in the USA. Thank you so much for your questions and for what you've shared with me of your life. There's a lot that I don't know about your situation from what you shared. However, I'm going to do my best with the information that I do have, and I might be assuming a few things here or pose a few questions to you as well. First, you, like many of the adults that I've worked with over the years, are stealing time from the only places that you feel it's available in order to get more time to get things done. However, stealing time from sleep and meals is probably the worst thing that you can do to yourself in the hopes of getting more done. In general, those of us with ADHD, we need our sleep. It's a sacred essential. We also need the fuel for mind and body in order to be able to even have a shot at functioning well. When you deprive yourself of regular, ample sleep and nutrients, you're actually causing yourself to go slower and become less effective with your time, not more effective or more efficient. When my clients and students have followed my logic and my lead about this, they've gotten themselves to sleep and eat much better. What they're able to achieve in the time that they have is much more, and it's better quality. What I don't know about your situation is whether or not part of your ADHD management includes medication and accommodations at work. If not, that's something to consider unless you've already considered it and it isn't an option for you for whatever reasons. Something else to consider is that ADHD in adults most often does not travel alone, so to speak, meaning that many adults also have other co-occurring conditions, such as depression, anxiety, learning differences, information processing challenges, and so on. Any one of these can slow you down, plus the lack of adequate nutrients and sleep. If more than one exists, then there's much more to address. Plus, there can be medical considerations or organic reasons for the slowness, such as thyroid or adrenal function. What I'm saying, I guess, is that there are so many different pieces here that need to be considered in order to put together the best possible solutions for you to excel in your chosen profession. I agree with you that quitting being a doctor is not the solution, and especially if you love the practice of medicine. It's heartbreaking to think of you giving up medicine. I worked in the medical field for 10 years while I was attending university, and I know how rigorous the pace is. However, with all the facts gathered together and your situation seen clearly, with all the moving parts, so to speak, I trust that there is a solution and a good one. From having worked in the field and managed large medical practices, I felt it was my duty to be mindful to manage the load that was placed on each physician, because if I allowed them to get overbooked and overburdened, they wouldn't be able to function and serve the patients that they needed to, or even have a good attitude about their work. It doesn't necessarily sound like your place of employment is looking out for you in the way that I felt that I should for our physicians. However, that's where the accommodations are important, again, if that's an option for you. What I find is especially important in solving such complex situations as you're describing is that you need to be very thorough in investigating and understanding everything that is occurring so that it can all be sorted out into the various themes or categories of issues to attend to, as well as what might be feeding into what or aggravating some of the challenges and actually making them worse. There's no simple answer to the very complex situation that you find yourself in. However, I would be honored to speak with you about it if that's of interest to you. Just let me know and we'll arrange to do so. For now, I hope that my input is giving you some ideas about things to consider attending to, such as more sleep, nutrients, accommodations, and ruling in or out other co-occurring conditions that may be impacting your overall situation. Transitioning to our next topic. Thank you to the next anonymous listener in the USA for the third topic of completing important tasks at work. They shared and asked, "My number one biggest struggle or frustration is taking action to complete important tasks at work. Part is paralysis, and the other is feeling stuck in my career with no growth opportunities. I've been struggling with this challenge for about 6 months now. I feel that what prevents me from resolving this issue is resentment and frustration. I'd like to find and define a new path using my strengths that puts me back on the track for success. I need to learn about obtaining career aspirations. What do I do and where do I go to get going on this?" My response to you, my anonymous listener in the USA. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your questions with me. From what you've shared, it's easy to see how resentment and frustration would be getting in the way of your productivity. Absolutely. Kind of like a catch-22. You know that you need to get the work done, yet without the feelings of reward or incentives, you really don't want to. What would be the point if you don't feel that your efforts are being rewarded? There are a couple of ways I view the situation that you've described. One is to find something in your current position that's rewarding and exciting to you, just for the time being, and focus on that so you can continue to produce your work. That could solve the first issue of not getting the work done because of the resentment and frustration you experience. You mentioned that you've been struggling with this challenge for about 6 months. It's not clear if it's just in the past 6 months that you've become dissatisfied with your position or really allowed yourself to become aware of just how dissatisfied that you are, or if something has changed in your place of employment that caused you to shift your attitude and to feel the way that you do. However, once the frustration and resentment piece has been handled, just temporarily, that would make the space and be the time to start exploring and defining and finding the new path for using your strengths that puts you back on the track for success. That would include knowing what your strengths are. What are your weaknesses? And most importantly, what lights you up? What's your passion? What excites you? What is it that would have you getting up early in the morning, excited about the day ahead of you, if that's what you knew that you're going to be doing? Years ago, I read a book entitled Don't Retire, Rewire by Jerry Sedlar and Rick Miners. My biggest takeaway from their book is the concept of drivers, that there are consistent themes or elements that you can find throughout your life that have been important to have in everything that you've ever truly enjoyed doing. Some of their driver themes include accomplishments, action, authority, belonging, competition, creativity, experiences, fulfillment, friendship, and more. It's a great book. Depending on what your essential drivers are, you need to make sure that they exist in all of what it is that you do if you want to feel good about any given situation or employment opportunity. For now, I hope my input has given you some ideas about moving forward in a methodical way by addressing your resentment and frustration first in order to make room to explore the options and the possibilities for moving forward with a more successful life. That's it for our 3 questions today. I want to thank the 3 anonymous listeners for their topics for the Ask Dr. B format. Remember, your questions matter to me. If I'm going to help make a difference in your life, I need to know what your challenges are, what you're struggling with. I really, really want to know what the number one biggest struggle or frustration is that you have right now. So I created a quick little survey for you. It's only 6 questions, and it's brief. The link to the survey is in the show notes as well as in the post for today's podcast episode. I hope that you'll stop by my site and choose to take just a couple of minutes to respond to the survey. I want to thank you in advance for your participation. A favorite quote of mine. W. Clement Stone said, "There is little difference in people, but that little difference makes a big difference. The little difference is attitude. The big difference is whether it's positive or negative. The question that I have for you at this point of our journey together is, does your current attitude need a makeover to serve you better? And if so, is today the day that you make that shift? Whether you're learning from my podcast episodes or live videos or working with me directly in my innovative online program or one-to-one, you are in my world and I'm here to serve your needs. So be sure to reach out and get your needs met. It's up to you to take action here so that things can change for you. 2 action steps to get some of your needs met are: ask Dr. B and get your questions answered directly on a podcast episode. And answer the quick little 6-question survey so I know what your number one struggle or frustration is right now and I can help. You'll find the links for both action steps on my website. Do it for yourself today. And if you'd like additional information about my innovative program, Adventures in Achievement, that's opening up again for new enrollment very soon, be sure to get yourself on the wait list so that you'll be the first to know the minute the doors are opening up again. That's on my website too. I appreciate you showing up to listen today and in the future. I have some special episodes in the works for you. They'll be coming really soon. For now, the new episodes are released on Mondays and Thursdays. As a subscriber, the newest episode will be in your feed by 1 a.m. Pacific time. Plus, you won't miss out on any of the extra special episodes that I create with guests, as well as some other different kinds of episodes, things I'm going to experiment with. Certainly a good reason to subscribe. Perhaps make a date with yourself to listen to each podcast episode so you hear your questions answered if you asked any of me for the Ask Dr. B format, or just enjoy all the episodes where I'll be talking about such compelling topics as releasing shame and guilt, seeing the path, making a plan, and more in-depth separate episodes as a spin-off from episode 13's multi-level dense topic. Remember, I love answering questions, so ask away for the Thursday episodes. I'm here for you, and I'm going to continue to tailor both the Ask Dr. B and the regular episodes to meet your needs. To do an even better job of that, I would love to know what you need to know, or would just enjoy hearing my point of view on. So if you enjoyed today's episode or any of the other episodes, please share this podcast show with your friends and your family, as well as rate the show. And if you'd like to do a little more, write a thoughtful review on iTunes so I know that I'm meeting your needs. It doesn't have to be anything lengthy, just a line or two about how the podcast is helping you. That is, if it is. I love hearing from you and learning how the podcast show is benefiting you and those that you care about. It really means a lot to me to know that your life is getting a little bit better every time we get together. So that's about it for today. If you want to participate in my quick little survey, or ask me a question, or receive periodic updates on new happenings with Dr. B, or learn about my innovative program, Adventures in Achievement, or you just want to download your show notes, you can do all of that on my website, as well as learn about other services and resources. That is, if that's of interest to you. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, bye for now.
Thanks for your undivided attention. If you're hungry to make positive changes in your life, head over to drbarbaracohen.com and see how Dr. B can help you today. Whether you love making changes with one-to-one attention and community support, or on your own with self-study, or could benefit from coaching or psychotherapy, you'll find all the information right there at drbarbaracohen.com.